John, we've talked and done segments on the show here about, my gosh, some of the horror stories of the Bahamas. We've talked about your international travel in Japan. We've talked about your family members. We've talked about some of the hairy moments you've had on airplanes in the Bermuda Triangle. But what's your one worst day ever in wrestling, you think? What was just the epitome of a bad day in the business for you in your multifaceted career?
That's an easy one for me, Jim. In I'm gonna guess it's probably 1972. Rob was working in Nashville for Nick, and he's working for Jarrett in Memphis some. And he calls me, and I'm working in Florida, and he says, how about coming spending a week with me? So I say, okay, I'll do that, man. So I make arrangements to take a week off in Florida and tell him I'm going to go spend a week with my brother and work in Tennessee. So the first night I fly out of Tampa, I fly into Huntsville, Alabama, and that's in one of Nick's towns. And back in those days in the early 70s, I mean, wrestling was really Eddie's style and what he wanted. He didn't have much blood. He didn't have a whole lot. It was a Jack Briscoe type time frame, right? So
yeah, it was solid work and experienced pros, but a lot more technical wrestling. He wasn't going crazy with the bunkhouse matches yet.
There you go. There you go. Now, and I didn't realize this. Rob didn't tell me, but he says, come on. I'll get you booked on Friday night. You can come in on a Friday. So I fly into Huntsville, and he picks me up. We get to the matches, and it's a 6-man tag, and it's a main event. We're on a main event, and we start to the ring, and there's these fans handing me knives and brass knucks. And they're saying, and I'm like, and when they try to put it in my hand, I go, hey, what I need that for? And they go, you're going to need it. You're going to need it. And I was like, what kind of deal is this? So I get in the ring. Within 5 minutes, there's 6 of us in the ring, and 5 of them have juice. They're bleeding. Yeah, I'm the only one not bleeding. And I'm like, what in the hell? I'd never seen anything like it because I was accustomed to that Florida stuff. I was like, this is friggin' strange here, man. So we go back to the dressing room, and I barely know Nick. I never spent a lot of time around Nick, but Nick comes to me and he says, hey, boy, he goes, you got a fire out there, man. You got to learn to fire. So, and everybody, you had to be nice to Nick. He was one of the guys that owned the damn company, right? But not me, because I wasn't working for him.
Yeah.
So I said, right in front of everybody, Rob's sitting there next to me, and he hears what Nick says to me. And I go, hey, you ain't never had on a pair of tights, you son of a bitch. I said, you don't know a damn thing about working, Nick. So Rob looks over like he punches me like, hey, shit, can't say that to Nick. So when Nick walks off, he says, you can't talk to Nick. Like I said, I can talk to him any damn way I want to, man. I said, I don't have to work here. I said, I'll tell him whatever I want to. So we get in the car and we drive back to Nashville. We get into Nashville about, I would say 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's about 180 miles right there.
Yeah, about 180.
Yeah.
So you got 180 miles. You run into Nashville, and we get in there and we have a little snack. His wife makes us a little snack. We have a little snack, and then I say, okay, well, where am I going to sleep? And he says, well, here's your bedroom right here. And he says, we're going to get up early. And I said, well, what do you mean early? How early is early? He says, about 5 o'clock or 4:30, 5. I'm like, wait a minute, man. Why? And he goes, we're on Memphis TV, And I said, well, how far is Memphis? It's like 260 miles or whatever it is, right? I'm like, God almighty, man. So it's 1 o'clock. So I get in bed and it seems like 20 minutes later is a knock on the door. Okay, we got to go. So I get up, man, I'm wiping my eyes. It's like, what in the hell? What kind of start of the day is this? So I get in the car and here we go. We drive to Memphis. It's in the wintertime. So it starts snowing. We get to about Jackson, Tennessee, it starts snowing. And when we get to Memphis, there's nobody, and that's an hour and a half live TV, right?
Yeah.
So nobody shows up but me and Rob and Sputnik Monroe and Norvell Austin for the whole hour and a half. They come down there. I put on my boots. Now it's probably 10:30. I think that show started 10:30 to noon or whatever it was. So I got my boots on, and they come and they go, it ain't but four of you guys here, so you're going to have to do a 2 out of 3 fall match for the whole hour and a half. Right? So I'm like, damn, Rob, this ain't a very good start to the trip, So he's like, okay, well, let's go do it. So we go out there, and Norvell runs. The whole match, Sputnik screams at Norvell, run, Norvell, run. He gets the heat. We make a hot tag, and he starts screaming, run, Norvell, run. So we couldn't catch him to make a comeback. It's like he run all over the building. It's like we're chasing him around there. I'm like, what in the heck? So we have this 2 out of 3 fall match. It goes all the way to the end of the program. I go out at the end of it. We make an interview. And then I go out, and I'm standing in the lobby. Have you ever worked there, Jim?
Oh, Memphis TV?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, no. At the channel that you're talking about, no. That's when they were still on Channel 13 in those days. 13.
Yeah.
So no, I've not been there, but I can imagine.
Okay. So there's a lobby out there, right? And there's a girl that's at the reception desk, and you've got the phone. She's got the phone call desk there and the whole deal, and she's filing her fingernails. And I walk out. I'm blown up, man. We've done an hour and a half. I'm like, and I look over there, and she's sitting there filing her fingernails. In the meantime, Lance Russell tells one of the referees, because there's a little time left. And he says, go back there. He tells the referee, he says, go back there and get Monroe and Austin and tell them to come back out here. I want to talk to them. So the referee, Monroe and Austin, they're pissed off. They just grabbed their shit and they left the building, right? So the referee passes me going back into the studio to go to Lance. And he goes there. And on live TV, the Lance says, okay, well, where's Monroe and Austin? And he sticks his head over there to the microphone, and he goes, Monroe and that N word, Memphis, Tennessee, right? I hear it. I'm at the door, and I hear him say that. And I'm like, oh, my God. And all of a sudden, this girl that's sitting there filing her fingernails, she sits upright like something like an electrical shock hit her. She sits upright. She goes, oh, my God. And I go over there. The switchboard is lit up.
Oh.
I mean, it's lit up, boy, big time. I was like, oh, my gosh, what a darn deal this is. So I go back. Now they've got a real problem. I don't know how they handled that later on. But I go back, I'm taking off my shoes. Me and Rob are sitting there. Now it's 1 o'clock, 12:30. And he goes, hey, hurry up. I said, what hurry up, man? And he goes, hurry up. He says, we got another TV. And I said, where? Where's the other TV we're doing, man? He says, Chattanooga. I said, wait a minute, man. I guess we got to go back to Nashville and then another 180 miles or 150 miles from there to Chattanooga. And we're going to do another TV?
Across the mountain.
Yeah, you got to cross the mountain. Yes, you cross that old Eagle Mountain there or whatever it is, right?
So, be on the air live at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah, to be on the air live at 5 o'clock. So you drive your ass off. He says, he's telling me, and I'm pissed. I'm like, wait a minute, man. We got to eat something here, surely, right? He goes, yeah, we'll grab some food on the way. We'll be real quick here, but we got to hurry. So he keeps hurrying me. So we go to Chattanooga. We get to Chattanooga. Now, we've driven already 260 miles, I'd say, to Memphis. Now we've driven that 260 plus another 150 is 400 more. We're at 560 miles or something, right? And it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And so we dress and we go out, and it's another tag match. We work for like 25 minutes, right? There's 3 matches on the deal or whatever. And so I come back and now I'm pretty blown up, man. I'm like, I start taking off my shoes and I'm like, I'm looking at him and just shaking my head like, man, what kind of deal is this? Because, back in those days, we were doing that one show in Florida and jockeying that sucker all around. We didn't have all those live TVs. So he goes, I said, as I start undoing my shoes, he punches me and he goes, hurry up. I said, what do you mean, hurry up? I said, where to, man? Are you serious? I mean, what is another TV? And he goes, no. He says, we got the house show, right? We got the house show in a couple hours. He says, if we hurry, we can get a little bite to eat. Are you kidding me, Rob? I said, are you serious? Is this your every Saturday routine? He says, well, hell, he goes, it could be a lot worse. I said, what do you mean it could be worse? How can it be any worse than this? And he says, well, we could have the Chattanooga house show, and then we could have the midnight Birmingham TV live. And then we drive from there at 2 a.m. back to Nashville, where we started from. I was like, man, I told him, I said, Rob, I'm not going to make this week, man. I think I'm going to cancel out after today. I believe I'm flying back to Florida tomorrow, man. I asked him, I said, do you do this every week? He says, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times I have that Birmingham TV too. He goes, it's really bad when you got that one. I said, man, it's really, the whole day's been horrible, man. Absolutely horrible.
But now you wouldn't get back to Nashville till 5 o'clock on Saturday morning from the Birmingham TV, but at least they usually had Sunday off.
Yeah, that was the only good thing about it. I think you did have Sunday off there. And it was unbelievable.
And then you went back to Memphis on Monday, where you'd just done the TV on Saturday morning. And then you went probably to Louisville on Tuesday, which was 3 hours each way in a northerly direction.
Right.
And you may have been in Nashville on Wednesday night, or you may have been in Evansville in those days on Wednesday night. And Thursday, you may have been anywhere from Lexington, Kentucky to Kosciuszko, Mississippi, and then you'd start back on Friday down there and work your whole way through it again.
There you go. I mean, that was one of the worst, I think, territories as far as travel and everything. Rob was doing great back in those days. They were actually doing great business in that territory during those days. But gosh, were they doing some crazy stuff, man. It was a nightmare for me. I'd never seen anything like it. Even on TV, I mean, there was like, they were just bleeding like crazy. 2 matches out of 3, they'd be bleeding. I was like, dang, man, I've never seen this kind of stuff. So it was an experience.
We hope you've enjoyed this stud story. Find the Ron Fuller Studcast at tnstud.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and everywhere you find your favorite podcast. Now, back to the great Brian Last and the Experience himself, Jim Cornette.